Hello and welcome to all the men and women of the West. I'm Joe, here with me is my co-host Stan.
Hello and greetings.
Today we'll be discussing the philosophy of the Hyborian Age some more. It's been a while since we did a philosophy video. The last Conan video of this sort that we did was quite popular. I felt it necessary to expand on any kind of thoughts I had regarding the Hyborian Age philosophy stuff. Last time we mostly discussed how the philosophy of Conan resembles that of Immanuel Kant, the world of ends rather than means, where individuals are not the means but the ends. You have to treat people as though people themselves are the end goal and elevate them. The other thing we discussed was how valor was the key virtue. Now, we discussed virtue and the general higher tier level of philosophy. It's Grimdark Half Off who's been really railing on with the main philosophical furline of the Conan universe. This was a part of the topic we hadn't really gone into, but it was something that I had wanted to state and I think implied more than stated explicitly. But it's such a fascinating topic, I want to actually discuss it fully. And it's that society, no matter what, civilization, no matter what, does eventually lead to decadence. There's a certain point when society becomes historically dystopian in some ways, or overbearing. History has shown that this happened with the Persians, the Greeks, with the Romans, heck, even the Egyptians before all of them, several times, with the Greeks again, with the Eastern Greek Empire, or Byzantine Empire, or Eastern Roman Empire, as it's also called. Society falls into a certain amount of decadence and just depression in a way. The peasants and working class people begin to become overburdened by the nobility that's governing everything, crushing everything below them and bearing down on them. The thing, according to Howard, eventually society needs a barbarian to restart everything. And that the barbarian comes in, cleans shop, either resets things to a previous point or colonizes it, and you get a new society or civilization that's far healthier. But generally, everything is set back to a point when everything is healthier. Conan represents that barbarian, as does Kull. The barbarian who comes in from outside, knocks the collective heads together and says, hey, get things under control. In the case of Aquilonia, the society had become overly decadent, wasteful, and useless. And Conan came along, established himself on the throne, and just brought back a lot of energy into the society. We could kind of compare it to Henri Cat at the end of the Wars of Religion when he established his dominance over France. Because at that time you had the Capet Valois who had become overly decadent and delegated all their authority and power to the de Guise family. Henri was from Navarre and came in, established his dominance and a new dynasty that was initially very, very energetic under his son Louis XIII and under Louis XIII's ministers such as Richelieu and Mazarin. But Henri did like Conan. He came from outside the country. He had some lands within the country, but he came in and conquered the throne. Conan did it in very similar fashion to how Conan did. Aquilonia is a society on the way out. Conan, the barbarian, comes in and takes over and directs that energy. You're very familiar with how Kull does it in Volusia, in the Kull stories, as you've read all those like I have.
Indeed.
And Kull is a very energetic, impulsive, hot-headed leader, but he helps to reinvigorate Volusia, push out her enemies. And there are short stories where he has to venture off to fight off enemies of the Empire and just generally solidify and double down on the borders. And that's the thing. A society, as Howard put it, I think, is only as safe as the Roman legions make it. The minute they falter and they're dismissed and mercenaries come in, the floodgates are open, society's over. And there's a new society that's going to be born because the barbarians will inevitably take over from the decadent leaders. And the peasants will have to pray that either he is rather like Zeno, who conquered the Byzantine Empire and just wanted to maintain the Greek Empire, rather than Mehmed, the conqueror, who just decided to do away with the last of the Greek Empire. That's the thing. Howard is commenting on civilization's tendency to be born, destroy, and reborn. But that oftentimes is dependent on the leaders, and that the leaders often enforce their will upon the peasants, but become increasingly decadent. That's when the barbarian comes in. The barbarian is representative of youthful energy, physical manliness, the martial character, also the creative energy. He is the king archetype in a way, cleansing the house in a way and just establishing himself and establishing the people back in control of their fates. That's a major part of the themes and motifs of Conan. Any story that involves Conan and the kingdom of Aquilonia involves him enforcing the will of the people onto the kingdom and overturning the decadent leaders. And this philosophy of the inevitable decadence of society is one that Howard kind of claimed that he foresaw happening to America. He believed that after 1895, America had now entered a decadent period and that she only had downwards to go. Well, she'd start heading up and enriching herself and becoming decadent even more before she just crashed.
There's a reason why often I say that the worst thing for an empire is a golden age. Because yes, they reach a magnificent splendor. They achieve so much. But after a golden age, there's only one way to go. Down. And it falls even lower.
There's only been one empire, strangely, that kind of circumnavigated that, the French one. The thing with the French empires throughout history is they're very peculiar. Howard injects a lot of vitality into his story by looking to history and looking at this trend throughout history where society goes down, and like you said, after a golden age, the barbarian comes along, knocks it back up, brings back some self-discipline, and pushes it back upwards. So the theme and philosophy of the barbarian restoring glory, I guess if you're familiar with Tolkien, you'd say it's the return of the king in a way. And for anyone familiar with the Arthurian myths, you'd say the once and future king archetype. The king who goes away but then comes back when Britain or France desperately needs most. Or in this case, Aquilonia.
There's a reason why a lot of these characters, these male characters, are seen as virile, what we imagine masculinity is. Manliness. This huge
hulking 6'7" or 6'8" figure
with lots of wisdom and intelligence, but who could swing a sword with the best of them.
Yep, as in the case of Aragorn and Conan. Next time on the Conan video topics, we'll be touching on just some culture notes that need a bit of expanding as well. And after that, we'll see where Conan takes us. But until then, don't forget to smash that like and that subscribe button as though you were Conan and Zenobia on your honeymoon, smashing zombies to pieces.